Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's episode 8 of Cryptid Convo, where we talk about all things supernatural. Again, if you see me looking off to the side, as for my script is, because I can't memorize all this. Today we're going to be talking about the mythical Kraken, so let's dive in. So the Kraken is a creature in Scandinavian mythology, so like Norway, Finland, like that area up there. And it's said to have been dwelling in the coast of like Norway and Greenland for centuries. And it's a giant squid, basically, said to grow to at least like 50 feet long. I don't know what to compare that to. Pretty big. Because of the amount of sailors that would sail in that area, like trading, crossing, traveling, all that junk, it became like a pretty big myth in that like surrounding countries, but like not true countries yet, like not the countries that we would probably think of. But I digress. An anonymous author had written a piece about seeing said Kraken after returning from Greenland, and they were heading off to Norway. Long trip, probably pretty boring. So like you're gonna want to write down any exciting thing that you come across. And so this was all the way back in I almost said 1250, so like 800 years ago? I can do math, okay. The author described the creature in great detail as well as its feeding habits, all that jazz. And so the author had thought that there was only two in existence. And so this is a lot different from like most cryptids, because normally when like there's a cryptid, they're just like the one creature, like that's it, like Mothman or the Jersey Devil, like there's just one. But this is like, there's at least two. And so then the creature was again mentioned in the Icelandic saga of a name that I cannot pronounce at all. There's gonna be a lot of that in this. I just want to preface the whole video. And I'm pretty sure this was just like a story, like a myth, whatever, and not like an actual account of it. So the protagonist is taken from the sea, through the sea, not from the sea. The protagonist is like through the sea, and it's like they say two Kraken. So fun fact, they didn't actually call it Kraken. Both of like the creatures, each one of them had an individual name. And so the first one, the name was meaning sea mist, and the second meaning heatherback. So that's a little fun fact. Jumping forward a bit, a couple hundred years later, to the 1700s, naturalist Carl Linnaeus, my window's opening, I shouldn't have shut them, had actually cataloged the Kraken in the first edition of a natural catalog called Systema Naturae, not English obviously, in 1735. And so there it was called the Microcosmos, which means microcosmos. So like, I think it's weird that they decided to use micro and not like magnus, meaning like big, but like it's described as this huge massive beast. You'd think he wouldn't use micro as like the prefix, but whatever. The naturalist later omitted the Kraken from the book. Cover-up story. And then the Kraken was again described in a book thing called The First Attempt at a Natural History of Norway by Erik Pontoppidan. I'm sorry. And I just love that it's called an attempt. Like, that's personally priceless. He says that it was mistaken for an island and that it left whirlpools whenever it would leave. He also said it was a very destructive creature, and he said that one had washed ashore in 1690. Did that actually happen? Who knows? That means that either there's only one left, or there was actually like more than two. But I'll get into more of that later. So yeah. In 1781, a Swedish author named Jacob Wallenberg had written about the Kraken in his work My Son on the Galley. Can't tell, a lot of people like writing about this creature. It's a massive thing. I'm pretty sure there was like a version of it in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I haven't read that book in a really long time. But the Kraken is definitely a character in a lot of like fantasy books and works. And so the next year, in 1782, a French malacologist, which is a person who studies mollusks, has to be a pretty boring job, named Pierre Denis de Montfort. I'm sorry about the pronunciation. Said that 11 ships, 10 of which were British warships, and then there was one French ship, had disappeared, and that they had been attacked by the giant squid. And so the British clapped back and was like, no, actually, they got lost in a hurricane. And so he obviously was like, oh, well, I'm not so cool now, am I? And the same dude wrote about the existence of 2 different species of giant octopus in 1802 in his Encyclopedia of Mollusks. So here's where we're getting into like the scientific part of it all. And so he said that the first had been what the Norwegians had been seeing, and that the second was the type that had attacked a ship near Angola. And if you don't know what Angola is, it's a country in Central Africa, like more towards like the southern part. And now, like, a lot of sightings of the Kraken have been like from way back in history, like 300 years back and like more. And then here we get to the science facts, the actual like, oh my god, this is amazing part. Now, usually I will tell you guys like some theories of like, oh, here's what the scientists believe, here's what the conspiracy theorists, cryptozoologist people think. But here we're doing that a little different. So there are, in fact, 2 different species of giant squid. The giant squid, of course, and the colossal squid. The giant squid come up to 43 feet long, so that is almost to the 50 feet that they first said. And then, of course, like, since it's the first squid, it could have been overestimated in size, or that it was just bigger than average. And then the colossal squid is actually shorter, which is ironic, I know, at about 30 to 33 feet. And so the colossal squid lives in the Southern Ocean, as well as like the southern parts of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. So it's like near Antarctica, like that area. And then meanwhile, the giant squid actually has been sighted around Norway and in the Scandinavian area. So that like would definitely fit in with like the myth of the Kraken. It has also been sighted along the eastern and western coasts of North America, southern coasts of Africa, which fits the Angola thing, and then Japan and southern Australia. And so that is why I believe that the Kraken really does exist, but it's not this mythological creature. It's not like something like that. It's really just a giant squid. Like, but then at the same time, that's like basically all they were saying, that it's just the squid that's like really freaking big. And so the measurement lines up, the areas at which it was spotted lines up. And so the Kraken, I believe, it does exist. It's a legitimate thing. Is it called a Kraken? No, it's called a giant squid, but it's basically fact. And so, yeah, that has been this episode. If you'd like to learn more about the Kraken and like the scientific bits of like squids and mollusks and that kind of thing, there's this book, Kraken, the Curious, Exciting, and Slightly Disturbing Science of Squid. And it goes into like a lot of the science. It's really interesting. At least I think so. I'm sorry that like I went so much into like the science and the ocean facts in this episode, because like I used to be super obsessed with like oceanography and marine biology. So that's like just like learning about this is like so interesting to me. But yeah, that concludes today's episode of Cryptid Convo. This is the first time that this cryptid is like legitimately just fact. It's like just a creature. So if you like the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things that real YouTubers are supposed to say, and goodbye.